So we obviously want to be warming up our wrist before doing any handstands or push exercises, but that may not be the only issue. A lot of you may need to be isolating a lot of strengthening exercises to actually build the conditioning, and especially if you're in your first year or if you're getting some soreness during or after your training. So firstly, for a warm-up, what I recommend doing is starting with just some simple wrist circles to get some blood flow into the joint. And how I do these is for about 45 to 60 seconds, and I just change my hand position depending on just essentially how I'm feeling, both to the side, both from the back, and just get some blood into the actual joint. So I then move into some wrist push-ups, and I do this simply in a kneeling position. Doesn't have to be incredibly difficult, but I'm just firing up those wrist flexors. I do 10 to 15 reps of those, and then swap sides, and then also do that in wrist extension. So we're building up both sides of the wrist here. And then the most important part of the warm-up is actually priming the following exercise you're gonna do. So if you are gonna be moving into some handstands, that's gonna be a bit of a big jump. So what I would do is focus on some pike holds and simply lean a little bit further forward and condition those wrists before I moved into some handstands. Or if I was progressing to some form of vertical press variation, maybe some difficult pike push-ups, I'd maybe just do some simple push-ups to obviously condition both the wrists and all the muscle groups involved before I moved into that working set. So now you know how to warm them up. Now you need to learn how to strengthen them. And while it is true, you are going to build that wrist strengthening just during your actual workout, some of you may need to actually isolate it. And there's no better way to do that than when bands themselves. What I recommend doing is training each angle. So you're doing a little bit of wrist extension here. You can do like 10 to 15 reps each side, obviously training your left one too. Then you can also do wrist flexion here. You can do radial deviation, and you can do ulnar deviation. So you've got 4 areas to strengthen with that band. What I also highly recommend doing is training the wrist flexors in a dead hang. And what I also recommend to do is to get into a little bit more of a false grip and then hang from there. And if you do want to make it harder and progress, you can slowly progress to one arm and start building that strength there. And finally, you can train those wrist push-ups again, but learn to actually progressively overload them. And how we progressively overload them is simply lean a little bit further forward to place more load on those wrists. And finally, sometimes with wrist and joint pain, you do need to give your body some rest and slowly condition your way back up. So if you do need to take a couple more rest days and reduce the volume a little bit, listen to your body, and I hope that all helps.